Hello, ICT4Ag community, and welcome back to our next keynote. If you missed this morning's keynote, my name is Io Blair Fries, and I am the CEO of Dev Global and one of your co-hosts for day 2 of ICT4Ag this year. I'm sure that you all enjoyed and benefited from the lightning talks and breakouts across the last couple of session slots. I just wanted to share with you all that we have had 500 more people registered today than yesterday. So if you're joining us for the first time today, you're one of the registered folks for the last 500 folks. So thank you for joining us, and we're really excited to break into this next keynote session. As a reminder, all these sessions will be available here in the platform and eventually long-term at ICTforAg.com. We're rolling these things out really quickly, so we already have the sessions from yesterday, from day 1, loaded up on the Zoom platform, so I'd go ahead and check those out if you missed any of them. I'm really excited to introduce our next presenter for the next keynote. Priyanka Singh is the Chief of Rural Transformation for the Reliance Foundation. Her program has a decade-long history of engaging with over 18 million rural people, including farmers and fishermen from 350 districts in 20 states, focusing on resilient lives and livelihoods. This conversation is going to be about empowering rural communities using technology solutions. Priyanka, welcome, and I'm really looking forward to your talk.
Thank you, Io. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon. I know we're all in different time zones, but good morning. And pleasure to be here. Though this tech is new for me, so much for ICT, for tech. But I guess since we've already crossed all the tech hurdles, there shouldn't be much anymore in the coming 20, 30 minutes. I represent Reliance Foundation here. And again, very happy to talk about our work with rural communities, especially using ICT and how do we make it inclusive and yet amplify the depth and the reach of that. Reliance Foundation, if I say with full humility and modesty, is the largest foundation in India, working with almost pan-India, mostly in the rural areas. We were started in 2010 by our honorable founder chairperson, Mrs. Ambani. Like I said, we work almost across the large country that we are in India. Our focus areas are 8 focus areas that we work in. And once again, very proud to say that rural transformation is the oldest vertical of the 8 verticals, and that's the vertical that I represent and will be talking about. But in addition to rural transformation, we also work on health, education, sports, art and culture, and urban renewal. Women's empowerment is a key concern for us, both as a program and as a cross-cutting theme, and you will hear about that as I go on. Let me jump to the rural transformation part very quickly and talk a little and come to that. So what does this program largely do? As the name suggests, this program is for the rural parts of the country. We are mostly in the eco-fragile zones. Well, almost all of the country now has eco-fragile pockets, but yet that's when we started. Our criteria for choosing the areas were the eco-fragility. Most of it are semi-arid areas. We have a large presence in the drought-prone semi-arid areas. We're also working in the coastal areas and that. And the key objective that the Rural Transformation Program today tries to work on is ensuring that these areas and the communities that live in there, the people that live there, men, women, and children, are climate resilient. So our overall goal for the Rural Transformation Program is to promote self-reliant but also resilient rural communities. And then how do we go about doing that? There are some numbers on the screen. You can look at them. They are huge. We do reach out to 71 million people in total. But the key aspect is not just the reach and the speed at which we reach, but how do we get there? How do we get? That's the difficult part. How do we what are our efforts to reach this climate resilient aspect? And the key priorities to do that is definitely climate resilient agriculture and therefore allied livelihoods. Agriculture, since everybody knows all that, I won't get into that. But just to make that premise clear, because agriculture is not only the largest contributor of climate change, but also the most affected. especially for poor and marginal farmers, the small farmers, and more so in the semi-arid coastal kind of areas. So climate resilient agriculture and allied, whether it is livestock or fishing, especially marine fishing, that's our key focus area. And that's something that we really want to work on. And you'll hear how we are leveraging ICT for that as I go ahead. But also given the kind of unpredictability of climate that we are living in, and also the fact that there are changing aspirations and therefore a movement of rural to urban and peri-urban coming up, the rural-urban coming up, we're also looking at working on diversification of incomes, or more so I would say strengthening the diversified incomes. Anybody who is vulnerable anyway has more than one source of income, but to look at kind of strengthening those and making them dignified, that's something that also is a strong priority for us. To do all of that, we have to look at a larger natural resource management approach, a landscape approach. Can't look at only agriculture and not worry about the forest above or the sea next or the groundwater. So a natural resource management approach. To do all this, not only within the pockets that we work in, within the states and the districts we work in, but also at a global and a national level, we do know that cooperation is essential. Cooperation within communities, across actors. I mean, it is a global problem. It is a regional, national problem. It is no longer one farmer or one village problem. So in the process that we identify to do climate resilient agriculture, diversified incomes, and so on, it's important that we nurture cooperation and nurture institutional frameworks which will promote and strengthen this kind of a cooperation. The last part I will say is that some of this digital literacy, digital inclusion is happening on its own with improved infrastructure. There is an organic spread, but not the organic spread, as in other things, happens first to the front enders. It doesn't really reach everybody. So there is a very strong focus, emphasis, and a push from us to also work on digital literacy and using digital terms to do financial inclusion. Women, as I said, are important for us as a stakeholder. There is a positive discrimination on seeing them as a separate group, but also very much focused intervention, but also in everything. If we are designing material, we want to look at it, but how does it affect women? Maybe some of you, most of you already know, but much of our farmers now are women. Most of the areas that we work, the farmers are actually women. The men are only at certain points of time in the farming cycle. And that too for crops. The moment you get into fruits, vegetables, and poultry and things like that, livestock, it's largely the women. Hence, a very, very central focus of women. One small point that's not really, I won't talk much about it, but as you had heard in my introduction that I said we work on 8 verticals. One of them is disaster management. So a lot of work that we do in rural transformation and that I'm talking about, the same knowledge or the exchange of knowledge transfers into our disaster management work using nature-based solutions, using ICT and nature-based solutions there. So just a small reference, if there is time, I'll talk about it, but that's not going to be the key focus in today's talk. Moving ahead, well, some of these are kind of generic things, but why are we looking at ICT in rural transformation? I know maybe these are cliche things which everybody has spoken about or will be spoken about, but I think no harm in repeating. It's a reinforcement that definitely it is about amplification of reach in an efficient manner, in a cost-effective manner. When your problem is so large, it's huge in terms of scale, efficiency and amplification become important things in order to get to the impact. So definitely amplification is there. But it's also so much more about democratization of information, especially for those users who are still not able to go and seek out information on their own. One of the downsides of all this information burst has been that it's very difficult to find out which is the real and the reliable information and which is not. And that's, I think, a huge downside that most of us are grappling with. The farmers are grappling, we are grappling. And hence, to bring in this kind of a reliability, a trustworthy source of information, which is affordable and accessible, that becomes also that if we are doing it, what are the key design principles? What are the non-negotiables in our use of ICT? So reliability, trustworthiness, affordability, those are very, very important things that I am sure most people look at. But like I said, the more you say, even then the less it is, especially the way information is going about. So you will be looking at democratization of information, but with all these safeguards. In terms of how we do it, some of the things that I said, but it's a continuous loop. It's not because it's ICT, it's autopilot. You can't leave it on autopilot. There is a continuous loop of identifying the need, finding the right resources, finding the right experts, curating the information, and especially again in a country like India, which is multilingual. So curating the information in multiple languages to make it kind of language inclusive. I don't know what was the last count on the number of languages we speak in this country, but it is humongous. And to try and curate each information, if you want to even say, give out a simple information that, you know, your soil depth should be 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, the inch itself changes. It's a different measure in different contexts. So curating each information, getting it translated into multi-languages, all those are important. And then regular feedback loop to keep in mind. In terms of key design principles, I did say about it is the user is the central. Information is not the central part. It is the user which is central. And the notion of user, the notion of community itself is so gray and so difficult. It is not one homogeneous block of farmers sitting or homogeneous block of women, livestock, rearers. And that is where I think our team's uniqueness comes. That in across these huge country variation that we have, that's where our teams come in and understand that who exactly is your user there, and feedback to the content creation team to get that information that this is how we need to curate. I am sorry. I think I didn't press my cursor enough, so kind of lost you for a second, but anyways. So profiling these users. What I said about a team, I just want to underline it in a symbol, say that this digital and the physical and the digital blend of our work is also something that's always difficult and always very, very critical. That we do need to do the digital part, we do need to do the physical scaffolding of our digital information, of our digital reaches that we do. That helps us not only reach out to the unreached, but also in terms of giving an interpretative framework to the information that is sent out. And that interpretative framework is extremely critical for adoption and rejection of that information based on your need. And that's the interpretative framework that you'll hear me talk about many times in the next few minutes. What does it lead to? Obviously, it leads to scale, it leads to impact, it leads to good information, but it also leads to reaching out to very, very different kind of users at a speed. Even though I said disaster management separately, but the fact is that much of the ecological crisis that we are seeing is an everyday disaster. So everyday advisory that you send for whether growing paddy or wheat or pulse has to be kind of looked at in a really, really fast manner. So by using ICT, what we are able to do is to get speed and scale in our impact. But again, I will qualify every part of ICT that I say there's a huge physical base that helped us. How has been a journey in this ICT? I mean, did we start like that where I am today? We didn't. It has been a journey. And to get to that journey, let me take a specific program examples and walk you through that. One of our large programs, old program, is the Reliance Foundation Information Services Program. This program is largely about helping farmers, livestock rearers, fishermen, fisherfolk, take informed decisions based on the information they get, use that decision, use that information to improve their economic returns from whatever is the livelihood system, and maybe also look at making linkages, whether it is market linkage, knowledge linkage, but look at that. So this program tries to, that's the three objectives that this program works for. How does it do it? We send out voice messages, advisories through voice messages, SMS, WhatsApp. We have an app specially dedicated to fisher folks, and we'll talk about that later. But this is how we reach out. We also do a lot of audio video conferences. As I told you, there is a mix of field, physical and the digital. So doing knowledge on wheels kind of thing, camps in field demonstrations, alerts. And one of my favorite is we run a toll-free helpline number. So these are our tools, advisories through voice advisories, WhatsApp, interactive programs, helpline, a lot of alerts, reminders, messages. This is how we do it. I want to take just a few seconds to go on to because at one level it all sounds like it's one-way pushing of information. That's not what it is. And if you look at our journey, and of course our journey coincides with the development of the digital infrastructure journey, we did start with being very, very unidirectional, largely because that was our understanding and that was the infrastructure. So what I said, it was a lot of pushing out information. And of course, the pushing out information was also enabled by our prior work on ground and understanding the ground. But we also realized that only this is not enough. So in the next phase of the journey, while we continue with the unidirectional path, we also have a more interactive, a kind of a bidirectional path, where we have people talking to each other, we have people talking to experts, we have people getting curated information based on past search and past needs. And very recently now, and I'll talk again more about it, what we are doing to especially enhance the women's digital and financial inclusion. So that's from being a unidirectional, we've moved on to bidirectional. And definitely it is more difficult, but more enriching in terms of the impact. In few cases, some of it is still work in progress. We are able to go to multi-directional. For example, a lot of our work that we have done in the past has led to strong institutions of farmers coming together to both enhance their returns and improve their production. So these farmer producer organizations or farmer collectives, we're trying to also get multiple farmer collectives to together work. So multi-directional kind of linkages using ICT. Or a lot of our livelihood clusters, which are women-centric, getting them. Digital farm schools, getting different kind of farm schools to come together to share knowledge. So multi-directional kind of thing. And dedicated app, like I said, for fishermen. So in a way, our journey has been kind of both responsive to what we learned on the ground, the feedback loop that I spoke about, and also we could make use of the evolving digital infrastructure that was happening in the country and across. AI is very much a trigger now. And that's why I said a lot of work is in progress, but we are looking at using AI and a lot of the data that has been generated to also be able to predict a lot, like let's say it's soil quality, soil strength, what kind of you need kind of a soil enrichment just based on AI information collected over the years. So that's been a journey of navigating through the platforms, and I use the example of our information services program to talk about it. Let me spend a few minutes on taking a few more examples, and if I am running late, feel free to point me out on that. But another, okay, great. Another example that I want to talk about is our digital farm schools. The digital farm schools are inspired by the farm field schools, of course, but using the power of technology, what we have tried to do is to not only create village level communities, farming communities, we have 300 of such communities, but also do across these 300 digital farm schools a community. So in each digital farm school, you have whatever they learn from each other. They we are using closed WhatsApp groups within each, but also across. There are interactive audio-video conferences which enable it. And of course, we also still do physical surveys to validate what comes out in these things. There is a very, very interesting digital diaries that are about to be rolled out for each farm school. This has been a kind of just been piloted, and I think that will give a lot of insights for a future AI-enabled advisories that will happen. So that's something that we are excited about, and it will be hopefully rolled out before the end of this year. That's the digital farm school. The next example that I want to share with you is, like I said, it's my favorite because it tells me a lot about the pull data. This is our helpline. This is a toll-free helpline where people can call in, and based on which circle they are calling in, we get to know which language would they be comfortable in. So the caller gets directed to an expert in that language, but also based on that language, you have a sense of what crops would they need, or what vegetables, or what livestock. So they are directed to experts based on the circle. This is correct in 95-96% of the cases. In some cases, because the numbers may be from some other circle and people are calling from some other region, but in 90+% cases, this direction happens very well. That gives confidence. Otherwise, in many times, you feel that if I call a helpline, who's going to understand what I am saying in Telugu, or what am I saying in, Assamese, or I'm saying in that. But this helps, gives confidence that irrespective of what language I call in, however rudimentary my knowledge is, there will be somebody at the other end who will understand what I am saying and will. And we also, in case we are not able to find a language that the person would be comfortable in, or the topic or the expert, there is an immediate callback, and we track the delays in callback to ensure that we are always able to improve upon the waiting time. Like I said, this one is a simpler one. It is less infrastructure intensive. This tells us also about from which state, which district, which pocket we are getting more calls. The helpline is what alerted us that we are not getting enough calls from women, and therefore we need to reach out to women. The helpline data is what also alerts us which pockets are still not getting enough calls for whatever reason. So information is reaching, but are they using? Do they have further? This is your demand data. This not only helps us answer, but this is your demand data, and really, really most useful data. And not just but also for designing future programs and designing many things. For disaster, for example, if this is a demand data, it tells you that if there is an immediate disaster response that you need to do, you will have to think about a different strategy in this pocket because you can just get so few calls there. So that's our toll-free helpline for it. It started as an expert query resolution, but as I said, it tells you many, many things and help us refine our strategy. The next is a app that was designed, an Android-based app that was designed for marine fisher people. We had a bit of a downtime in this in between, but we launched it in 2019. Like I said, we had a bit of a technological related downtime, but now it's back on its feet, and it's very, very useful to give marine fishermen, exactly what is the potential fishing zone, weather advisories. It helps save, not only it helps increase the catch, but saves potential lives and assets. It allows the fishermen to decide when to go, where to go, and when not to go. So in that sense, it's a useful app. This is also multi-language app. It picks up, it's easy to navigate. It has, like I said, it has a lot of piloting done. It takes automatically detects the location and gives you information in the native language. So that is also not that they have to choose that I need this language and that language. Simple information, very, very understand. So we pick up the information from inquires, but we curate it then. We curate it in an easily understandable format and in different ways. It is there in text, it is there in dashboards, it's also there in animation, it will be there in audio. So whoever is comfortable in which can use that system. And there is an inbuilt feature. Despite all these adaptations, supposing you don't understand, you have a follow-up question, then there is an inbuilt feature where the users can just call and ask for further clarifications. So that's the Machli app. Machli means a fish in Hindi. So it has come from that. It's a Machli app. And it is something that we will be further propagating the use on that. The next one, and after that, I think I have a last example and I'll conclude. The next is what I spoke about using for the farmers collectives. That what are we trying to do with the farmers collectives? And here the idea is not just for each farmer collective to have that information, but the next level is that farmer collectives across can quickly, they have shared dashboards so that they can quickly see who has what inventory. I want to trade in cumin. I should be able to just see from there that who can I trade in cumin from? I have got a new stock. Where can I go to which FPO, to which farmer organization? So this will really be that multi-level interactive platform and slowly bring in all the farmer collectives, commodity-wise, but also multi-commodity-wise together. As of now, this is a new intervention. We have just launched it about, I think, 6-8 months back, and we are in the first set of results about more within the FPO level kind of an interaction community. They are getting information on these FPOs are registered bodies, so they have to do a lot of compliance. So compliance alerts, technology, market prices, weather, and news, of course. But the next level is to get them all these FPOs together on a platform. The last and my next favorite program is what we are trying to do about with women, and this is my last example after which I'll conclude, is that despite all of this, we have had women as one constituency in addition to a few other constituencies where we still feel that we have a lot to cover. And in that, I think we are working at two levels. We are working at one in creating the demand for women to be able to use digital. And the creating the demand is through, number one, a lot of education. So kind of digital skilling, you can say. Demand by digital skilling through education. And this is all through videos that are used to send out information, train them, and so on. It has different levels. So we start with the basic level, then women can graduate to intermediate and advanced level, but they can graduate at their own speed. If somebody needs more time, it's fine. If somebody can move faster, that's also fine. Each of this module has examples which are specific to their need. It could be banking, it could be income, it could be just looking at household expenses. Health insurance, a lot of health insurance the government is doing in India now. So looking at their insurance needs, looking at what kind, and they're very tiny premium that you need to pay, or in many of the insurances are free, but you need to keep track of whether they need to be renewed or what. So looking at specific life examples to do the education part. The National Rural Livelihood Mission of our country is one of the largest platforms which have done a commendable job of organizing women across self-help groups. So using those platforms to reach out to the women, that's a platform that's already created, and most of the women are part of it, except a group of young unmarried women, and that I'll come to separately therefore. But most others women are part of these NRLM promoted self-help groups, and we're using them to reach out also to this. There are two parts of this approach. Some of it will go in the next slide, I think, but let me cover it here. We'll change the slide later. See, one is, like I said, creating the demand. That's the basic education part of the women. But there is also, you need to do a continuity of education for most such things. And therefore, that has to be built around my everyday practice. If I'm not using my mobile or my Google search engine or my WhatsApp and Facebook on an everyday basis, then my competence to use it and experiment with it diminishes. And that's what the idea that we are pegging on, saying that all the women are working in some way or the other. And we have some specific livelihood clusters. So we are linking the livelihood work with a feature phone-based system that we have developed for them to practice their digital skills. As one study, and I'll divert a bit and come back to that, one study said that, of course, you need financial inclusion for women to do more. But if that financial inclusion is digital enabled, then your results are not only much more, but also much faster. And I think that's the thing that we are pegging on. The demand, education, level 1, but level 2 is ensure that they start accessing their finances, their banking, their income needs through digital means, because mobility is still a constraint. So you do work on the gender constraints, but you still look at other ways of increasing mobility and accessibility. And based on those principles and those learnings, we have done a voice-based platform for financial inclusion of women. The name is Hindi, but it's called Hello Khushali. This is also in pilot stage. This we are doing specially where we have done some special livelihood clusters. And I repeat, it is a feature phone based because still many women do not have access to smartphones. So this is feature phone based. It allows you to cover larger women, and it has two pathways. One is still outbound, that we reach out to the women, give them information, advisory, but that's a smaller component. The bigger component is inbound, that women can then ask for more information. They can ask for more direction. They can ask to be linked to something else. We have just piloted it in the last 2 months, but very, very encouraging data. For example, just one data, if I say that for every 3 outbound calls that we are sending, we are getting 1 back. So like the helpline, this tells you the demand, that for every 3 information that you get, that you send, you're getting 1 query back, or also 1 interaction back. So seems very encouraging. This is, we have to do many more touch points, but right now our touch points are on financial inclusion, business opportunities, government schemes, agriculture, nutrition, and career guidance. As I spoke to you earlier, the young unmarried women are still a group that's often left out from such platforms. So looking at also career guidance for them. These are our current touch points. Maybe with more information, more experience, we might increase or decrease it. But as of now, business, financial, and agri seem to have the largest uptake for now. So that's our work on women that we are doing with. And if I were to look at all the experiences, all the programs that we have worked on, and what have we learned, and where would I like to conclude for now? Um, so definitely the improvement in infrastructure has helped us, especially the fact that mobile phone access has improved, connectivity has improved. This was an enabler, but not enough. I think with this and the fact that we had our ears and eyes on the ground, we understood the ground, we could move fast and we could do relevant use of ICT. So these two together, I think, helped us reach out to large number of people and gain their trust. As I said, there is an information overwhelming, and whom do you trust, whom do you not trust? I think we have gained the trust, and that can be seen in either the helpline data, or even if you look at the small data that point that we have for the women pilot that we are doing. Both seem to have been increasing in people reaching out to us, and different kind of people. So it seems that's the hump that we've already crossed. That's something that we have achieved with all of them. However, there are still asymmetries that exist within the country and within information types. And that is the asymmetry that I think is the challenge for us for the future. That how do we reach that? And minimize it, reduce it to the extent. So that's it. And in that asymmetry, I think what we are currently experimenting and innovating on is to keep doing what we are doing, but to use AI a lot more, and to also do a lot more partnerships and collaborations. So going ahead, that's something definitely, especially looking at the climate crisis, looking at therefore the importance of rural livelihoods, we would like to use ICT even more to address those two very, very severe challenges that the rural area faces, but using ICT for development, using partnerships and collaborations to do that. That's our future. And I think at the end result, we do need to ensure that there is development cooperation across all the different communities in order to actually lead. So ICT then can move from being an enabler to a result in itself. Right now, it's still an enabler, and it has enabled us to do amazing things. But to get from ICT to being an enabler to a result, I think you need these development cooperation communities across the globe. And that's our dream. That's our vision for the future. Let me stop here.
Thank you so much, Priyanka, for your talk. And we have a little bit of time for Q&A, so we'll just put a couple of questions in front of you. I really liked this physical or phygital, I can't remember exactly what the term was that you used, that brings the physical and the digital together. And I think a lot of us are living in this world, in this nexus now, in this kind of post-COVID digital and physical working communities. How do you ensure that the linkages between the physical access and the digital information systems are both high quality and interoperable, and you're not favoring one system or the other?
How do we ensure is largely, I think being on our feet every day. Because there is, again, I said, then there is no autopilot on it. Yet, I think AI is definitely a key to reducing that inequity. But let me take a step back and answer what I meant by physical and digital being together, and that will give you also some answer to that. See, any information that is sent out, especially in large numbers, the adoption of it, effective adoption of it, ultimately depends upon my resource base and what ecosystem I am in. And the resource base includes everything: my financial, my natural, and my ability to try and experiment, right? Uh, and that's where right now our physical comes in, that okay, you're pushing out all this information on how to deal with, let's say, wild boar attacks, huh? So you're sending out this information to deal with that, but my ability to use that information depends on these things, and this only my physical connect will tell you that okay, that means along with this information I also need to look at that if these are the different conditions and here are 20 permutation combinations, you have to add this in order to it to be adopted. As of now, our on ground presence and regular feedback need assessment tells us. But we are working on seeing if AI can help you predict that. And if you can make more interactive kind of programs, that interactive, even though interactive programs are there, but it's not equal. The interaction is not equal. It's still more push and less pull. So we're trying to work on getting that. And maybe that's where your AI enabled chatbot, not Google search enabled chatbots, but AI, not chat GPT, but AI enabled kind of chatbots is what will be the answer. And that's our next step. Hopefully, if you ask me to come again after a year, maybe we'll be able to share about that. But that's how we're working on it.
Yeah, I can't wait until I get to just plug into a little chat bot, what are the yields going to be in, such and such state in 3 years and see what we can come up with. Of course, we'll need to know what uncertainty and things look like. And I think that's probably part of that trust you were talking about building through talking about data and data literacy. We have a couple of quick questions. Thank you for the interesting and informative presentation. Regarding the digital platforms connecting farmers to the market, what are the key data categories that data collectors developing the platforms need to collect to onboard the farmers? Please share the procedures or methods that you use to collect these data categories. So this again is about the onboarding of the farmers.
Yeah, so this is an easy one because these farmer producer communities that I'm talking about are those we have already been working on. Maybe I didn't talk enough about our on-ground activities, hence this confusion. But number one, we also have a large program of direct implementation on ground, which is totally physical. Oh. So we do a large program on ground that's in 24 districts across 8 states of the country. So that's also a large program. So there is a large on-ground presence, number one, that helps. Second, as I spoke about partners, there are these intermediary organizations, either of the government departments or of other non-profits, who have also nurtured and fostered such FPOs, the farmer collectives, and the data is taken from them for onboarding. So it has both ours own that we have nurtured, plus other organizations that have worked on it.
Well, great. Thank you for all of your insights. I think this is all the time that we have for questions right now because we have to get going to the expo, but this has been super insightful, and it sounds like the Reliance Foundation has so many really interesting programs going on right now. I thank you for all the work that you're doing and really hope that you have great success in the next year.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, folks, well, let's get ready for the expo preview, and we'll head over to the expo now. So let's get a preview up and running so that you can figure out how to find all of your exhibitors listed under the expo tab. So I see some familiar names and great organizations popping up on the screen that are ready to be part of an active part of this ICT4Ag community. So to actually click into the virtual expo floor, you'll need to navigate there at the top navigation bar and look at the booth setup. There you'll select a booth that you want to enter and explore the content. We've got something loading up here. Here you should find some PDFs that they've chosen to share. No, we're coming back to it. So here you'll see a summary of the organization. Additionally, many of these organizations will be presenting during a scheduled expo time, and this is where you can find more information about that. Jawu, you want to come back on and talk a little bit about the Inspire Challenge for the organizations in the expo?
Yeah, sure things. I can definitely tell you more about the Inspire Challenge. So we launched this year's Inspire Challenge program back in September under the mission of improving women's access to digital services and programs. And just like we just heard from Priyanka, this digital gender divide or gender digital divide has been a concern, and there are a lot of programs being developed and piloted everywhere. We wanted to incentivize some of the programs that are working actively to trying to improve women's access to all those services, digital tools. So we received 80 applications that propose how they would go about it, and of which 16 organizations were shortlisted. And they are all invited to present their solution and program and how they are working, what are their digital strategies are at the expo booth. So you will find them in the expo area today. And don't forget to stop by their booth and learn more about their work. And what will happen after that is out of 16 organizations, 5 will be selected by our judges today here, hidden in the audience. And they will be, those 5 organizations will be supported for next 6 months to start the journey of increasing women's participation in your programs. And the 5 challengers will be announced tomorrow, the last day of ICT-4X during the opening session. So stay tuned, and we are so excited to unveil the selection of those 5 organizations tomorrow.
Much, Jawu. I can't wait to learn more about these organizations, and I'm really biting my nails trying to figure out who are going to be named the winners tomorrow. So I'm going to come back and stay tuned as well. With that said, before you completely leave the lobby and go explore the expo, I want to say thank you again for letting me be a part of your day here at ICT4Ag. You will have a great friend and flying farmer back after the expo, Femi Adekoya, and I look forward to seeing everybody else in day 3 in the lobby. And again, connect with people, find folks that you haven't talked to before. If you see anything in the expo that you like, reach out to those participants. We want to make sure that we're building this community here, so connect with one another on the chat, and I'll look forward to seeing you there.